fucking wait. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we're not going to do that. We're nice people. What are you talking about?
Are we?
Well, welcome back to Dealing Seconds, guys. We've been gone. If you remember us, I'm Chris.
And I'm Danny.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we kind.
Forgot who
I
I
mean,
was.
it's been a while since we've done this, but Dan, we got something really special for the guys. Today for everybody watching this or listening to this wherever you're catching us on your podcast streaming, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, up to you. We have some awesome guests today. We got three guys. Well, hopefully three. Hopefully all three of them will be able to join. We got the guys from Trinity Decks. If you haven't seen their deck, it's on Kickstarter Live right now. There will be a link in the description below. As of recording this, there's like less than a week left in the campaign. Guys, please definitely go check it out. If you hear and see from this podcast, you like the guys, you like their story, give them a check. Check it out. Maybe share it, whatever you can. Even if you don't back it, maybe if you could share it, because they're awesome guys, and I think it's actually a really cool deck, and I think they're really cool people. But yeah, do you know? I mean, we know some of them, right, Dan?
Yeah,
we know a couple.
I know. Yeah, I know who Dane is.
Yep.
I've talked to him a few times, and he's designed a few decks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Paul Richardson, I know he did that one. I can never remember
Hamza.
the name of the deck. Yes, with
The Hamza
Hanson
deck.
Chen,
Yep.
printing with Hanson Chen. I think Dane designed that one as well.
I mean, hint. You can maybe talk to him about maybe the senior year, with the Chien.
Well, I mean, I have senior year pretty much ready to go, so I don't know.
That's true. I mean, maybe he could say, maybe he could share some war stories, what his thoughts were. Where is it awesome working with them like you think it is, or whatnot? Because I think so.
We'll see, huh?
We'll
so
see,
far,
huh?
so good, but
We'll see, huh? No, but yeah, it's great to get to know these guys. But on that note, let's bring them on in.
Sweet.
Welcome to the podcast, guys. We have Dane, we have Paul, aka 2/3 of the Trinity Playing Cards. How are you doing, guys?
Doing well.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. First off, like we were saying just before this, thank you guys for coming on the podcast. We do truly appreciate it. Thank you for last minute. You guys have a deck about literally on Kickstarter, about to finish, about a week out. I think you guys are about halfway funded. As they're showing right now.
Prototypes in view.
Yep. As of recording this, we're actually recording this on a Sunday afternoon, so you guys are just over halfway funded. You guys have about just under a week to go, about 6 days as of recording. First off, guys, how did you guys meet and come up with this deck?
Paul, I'll let you start there.
Okay, so I obviously knew Dane years ago. Dane helped me get the Hamza deck out there. I need designer. I got up with Dane, give him the brief, and it was like, yeah, Hamza, brilliant, first deck out there. That all went nice and smooth eventually. Once all those decks were out, and then I think I just got itchy feet. I just wanted to do something, but I wanted to do a more collaborative deck. So initially I had some names in mind. Dane was on top of that. Marbod, we had somebody else as well, but it came down to us three, so it was sort of like, yeah, we was three of us with the Trinity.
Nice.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Merlin Marbod was not able to jump on the call with us, but yes, he is the other third of the group here, and yeah, like Paul said, we started working together on the Hamza, and so naturally it was nice to work again with him on something else. And then we also had Merlin helping us and working with us, and all collaborating together was a fun little project that we took our time doing too. It was not something we were just like, let's try to get this out as fast as possible. We were just like, let's just flow with this, and however long it takes is how long it takes, and let's just have fun with it. And that's what we did.
Yeah, nice. Good, because I've been noticing, I mean, even before you guys launched the Kickstarter, I saw you guys were you created the Instagram, you were posting it slowly, it was like that slow burn, but trying to build up a good following, a good, representation of the deck, which I thought was great, because I think a lot of times nowadays, as you guys probably know, creators will just put out a deck without trying to think of it like, hey, I need to market this. And then they wonder why their deck wasn't reaching enough people. You know, I think you guys did it the right way, and plus you guys are well known in the community. People know you guys,
Yeah.
so it's like you know, you
I,
both.
Sorry, Chris. I think both me and Dane probably done that anyway with the decks. I mean, Dane's done a load of decks as well, collaborative, and you know, obviously he's Bush with Death deck. It seemed to work well with the Hamza, and I just thought the only thing that I didn't do with the Hamza was have a separate account, so it was all on my account, and because it was the first deck, etc. So yeah, we just thought we'd do a Trinity cards, and yeah, it's much harder though this time. I don't know how you guys feel how the market's just totally changed.
I think for me, I mean, in
That's
general,
that's not, that. Yeah, I was gonna say that's something that we've been talking about for the last
while.
few months. Is like, the market's just kind of went, but then like there's some spikes, and it's really hard to predict than it was a year ago.
Yeah. I think it's more so doing like the big name creators, you know, are always going to get funded just because the name and everything. But then it's even harder for smaller creators to get their name out there. And then, you know, people are like, you know what? I'd rather spend my money with the big name creators because I know I'm going to get my decks. Why am I going to help a little guy? But also, you know, COVID's coming around. People are going out. There's not as much expendable cash anymore. So I think people are being very, very particular. But I also think a lot of the collectors nowadays are going with the big names for the resale value market. But even that is getting
Which
a
is
nosedive.
tanked.
It's just tanking. All the resale values are going down the drain. But I'm like, in general, I think markets go with ebb and flow. So there's going to be an up and a down. I think now we're in that downswing, but I think soon we're going to go back up into that upswing. I just think like a lot of these hype brands and big brands are slowly waning off, and that people are realizing like, hey, there's better creators out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's gonna weed out the creators who like I don't think are like really serious about doing it, and that like are just like, oh, I want a deck of cards with my name on it kind of thing, and I think that's that can be a good thing, is that whoever sticks around obviously wanted to do this in the first place.
And not just try to make some money and get their name on a deck and stuff. As you two know, this stuff ain't easy.
It's not easy. No.
This is totally different. This time the Kickstarter is totally different. I'm sure it is for Dane as well. When I did the Hamza, you know, there was a little bit of squeaky bum time and stuff like that, but you know, it just seems to be so much harder. What I don't want, and hopefully there's a lot of first-time creators out there, is I don't want them to stop creating. Just hold off, and you know, because it's about the market. And you can't have a market without independent creators, because for me, those creators, independent creators, push that market a little bit differently as well. And I think that's what the market needs. It's such a niche, but it also needs pushing.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I feel a lot of times nowadays you get, especially with cardistry being a big thing nowadays, especially with the younger crowd, you have all these younger kids, I would say, because, you know, we're all adults. There's kids and like they're teenagers, they're getting into the community, but all they see is either Fontaine, Dan and Dave, or King's Wild, and they're like, oh, I got to get those decks. And they don't realize there's a whole nother community out there of smaller creators that are making awesome decks. And you know,
I think that's also just something that kind of goes with like you said, if it's like up and coming collectors and stuff like that, because like I remember whenever I first started, those were the people that I wanted, and then then when you start learning about everyone else, and you're like, oh, I mean, there's so much more out there than just the big names.
And I think that's why I think it's more of like so many young kids are getting into the community that those big names will always be big, and they're not going to the smaller creators. But I think, you know, give them some time, and everybody learns. Like we all probably here have done that in our, you know, card collecting. We had to get all the brand new shiny things and had to have it at once, and next thing you know, you're 500 decks deep and you're like, oh, I actually don't like any of these now. Holy shit. Let me now I need to get rid of all these decks and actually get stuff that I really want. You're like, oh. But it's the growing pains, you know, it's the growing pains of the situation.
For sure.
So first off, guys, we're gonna have, if you're watching on YouTube, there's gonna be pictures of the Trinity deck and the campaign on YouTube right now. If you're watching, if you're listening to Spotify, please go to YouTube, check out this video. You'll see the deck. So as even Dane's holding it right up. So tell me, what was the what was the whole premise of the design, the style, and also picking the certain people? Because I know, Dane, you have specific people for the courts, because that's what you're known for. You're really good with creating people on the courts. Plus, there's one court I'm going to laugh at and talk to you about in a second, because I've been getting a shit ton, and I mean a shit ton of DMs saying there's one court card that looks just like me, because we all know you also designed Yuma's deck and I was in that deck. So everybody's like, Chris, you're in the Trinity deck. I'm like, no, that's not me.
Let me check out and see if I can find who they're talking about. Maybe
It's
The
one
King
of
of
the,
Clubs.
It's Merlin.
the King of
It's
Clubs.
Merlin.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see that.
exactly.
Yeah.
As Paul's holding it up.
Even I like
Yeah.
even like when I was looking at the campaign like a week or so ago, I was like, dude, Chris, are you in a deck and you didn't tell me?
Yeah,
Like, what the hell's
I'm
going
getting
on here?
all these DMs from people, and I'm like, I'm not in the deck. Exactly. Yep. That's
Yeah.
There's the Chris from the Yuma deck there.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But no, I can see that now. I can definitely see that.
I know it's the whole the same style of glasses and the beard, the way
Yeah.
I was like, I laughed. Even actually, funny enough, Yuma actually texted me, and he was like, Chris. I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the deck. No, I'm not, but
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
that was hilarious.
Paul, we should have thought this through before we had this interview. We could have worked this really well.
Chris, so one of the heads is Merlin, and the other head is, and if you turn it upside down, it's you.
Cool.
Yeah. That's what
I don't know if Merlin's gonna like that. And I'm sorry, Merlin, if you listen to this. They just threw, by the way, they just threw you under the bus, not me.
Yeah.
Just saying. I'm not involved. No, so what was the whole premise behind the design, the back design, and the courts and everything?
Paul, do you want to go on that, or you want me to take it?
Yeah, you take it then.
All right. So, I mean, I think one thing that we really were trying to get across is that we wanted to make sure that it was definitely a collaboration of the three of us. So we wanted it to be known that the three of us came together as far as like put all our energies kind of together into this and tried to make it not, Paul's deck or Dane's deck or Merlin's deck, but our deck together. And so that way we, are putting, like I said, putting all our energies in it. And so we also wanted it to be, I remember when we first started off, we talked about how we kind of wanted this like esoteric, like spin on it. We wanted it to kind of be like ancient, like have an ancient kind of feel to it. And we wanted these like just prominent like symbolisms and like ancient symbols to be shown through the deck. And that's kind of where we came up with like having these like little magic sigils around it. And we tried to make it look like it was like, from something old, something primordial or something. And so that was kind of the main focus as we kind of came up with the design for the back. We originally started with this little diamond pattern, and then from there we just kind of like expanded it out from there. And if you look into the deck, you can see that there's all of these like elemental references and things like that. In all of the court cards, we have zodiac symbols up in the court cards, which was another thing. We wanted this deck to be a real good tool for mentalists and be able to like have all these little secrets within the deck that if you are more than just like a card magician or something, that you could use this deck even further than that. So
I did not notice that when I was looking at this. Now I have your campaign over here. That's what I'm looking at, and that's pretty ingenious.
It really is.
We wanted things in there, hidden things. It's like with the Hamza. When I did the Hamza, I never told people it was marked, and but it's marked. But we wanted this deck as a bit strange, a little bit symbolism, but also to get people to have a look at it and sort of like notice something and then try to create something themselves rather than having the zodiac signs and those so you can like sometimes jazz with it if you wanted to.
Yeah, it definitely, like Dan said, I'm also looking at the campaign on my computer over here as well. I didn't notice those whole symbols, but I did when you were talking about like that old feel. For me, it felt as soon as I saw it, I felt a very like gothic, ancient English kingdom feel, like the old kings and queen type feel, like the whole Knights of the Round Table thing, if you want to think of it that way. Like I had that feel as soon as I saw it, and I'm like now looking at everything, I'm like, oh, okay, now I get what you're trying to do.
And
Gotcha.
and that's why we came up with the jokers. You know, where actually if you cross them over with a nice little pendulum, you've got yes, no, and truth and lie on there,
Huh.
so you can use that with a pendulum.
Oh
But
wow,
you've also got
Oh.
you've also got the zodiac signs on that as well.
nice.
So yeah, then that's like kind of ties back into the being able to do like a lot of mentalism stuff, especially if you can find out their like astrological signs and things like that. You have the ability in here to be able to like maybe force a card onto somebody and then have them key into the symbol and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For people out there that use Cypher or Unlocker, you know, to sort of like harvest the information through that and just, you know, and then bring it on in there and then maybe force that card and say, you know, I get that that might be something, you know, significant to you. What's your zodiac sign, by the way?
I'm actually a Leo. And Dan?
Aquarius. Got to think about that.
Yeah, so I'm honestly, I'm like looking at it. I'm like, I also like the fact that one, looking at it, it's a deck that you can use it for Magic, of course, but you can also use it for gameplay because it's not so far off that you're not understanding. You know, it's you know the kings, you know the courts, you know everything, you know the suits, but it's also
And that's
yeah, I'm saying like
Go
they're also custom pips throughout, but it's not so abstract that you will not understand what the cards are.
yeah. And I think that's a real big thing whenever it comes to usability, because obviously collectors will buy anything that looks nice, and it's if it's got like a pretty design, of course it's going to work well for a collector, but we also want to make sure that it works for an actual card user, and that you know, when they see the card, even if they just see it for a moment, this corner, this indice is still semi-standard for you to be able to understand it. Same thing with the number cards.
Yeah.
Even though they have like custom pips, they're still
familiar.
pretty recognizable.
Exactly. Exactly. I also was looking at on your thing the whole tuck. So the funny thing about the tuck, I get the whole symbolism and the sigils and things like that. The background reminds me of the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it has like this like, hey, maybe think of think of the possibility of something different, something not the same. So that was like the first thing. That was the first, you know, thing I felt when I saw that. But let me ask you guys, because I know you guys have custom courts, and you guys, of course, Dane, you do amazing courts and great pictures as well. Besides you three, what made you choose the other courts, the other people for the courts, I should say?
Yeah.
Paul, you wanna hit that?
Again, in the meetings that we had, it was sort of like getting people who have inspired us, you know, and not necessarily all the big names, but people, you know, that are quite approachable as well. You know, Jeremy Griffiths, for instance, you know, Jeremy, you can reach out to him, and you know he's going to get back to you. So yeah, I mean, there was a few people that inspired me. Same with Dane, and we really want to emphasise women as well in this deck. The women that, you know, that influence Magic, and which I don't think people, you know, I think everybody should be magicians and stuff like that, but you know, things like Caroline Raven for what she's done, Laura London, etc. You know, it's really important that they inspire, you know, the younger generation as well. What Laura does for young kids in London every summer, they have summer camps, etc., which I'm sure, you know, it happens, you know, over there in the US, etc., where names just dedicate their time. So yeah, it was sort of like a real sort of like, right, this do we want, what do we think about this, what do we think about that, and that's where we come up with everything. Obviously, the vain thing is we had to be in there as well. So
yeah. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I mean, I would hope you guys are in there. You know, you got, and of course, I'm the king of clubs. Sorry, Merlin. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Giving shit. No, it's just funny. It's honestly, when I saw that and then I went to Merlin's Instagram and looked at it, I'm like, oh, no wonder we look very similar. We have profile wise, unfortunately, I'm a little bit bigger, but I'm just like profile wise, we definitely have the same profile look. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, wait, did they just repurpose me? Like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Without a credit, Chris.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm fine with it. I'm fine. Use me as much as you want. I don't care. I'm like the redhead stepchild that gets used and abused and thrown out at the end. Like, I don't care.
That's why he edits our videos, because none of us want to do it. We just
Nope.
make him do it. We use them. Yeah.
Basically, FYI, the way this came about, our podcast thing is, so we have the group Dealing Seconds, and we were like, we always were doing stuff, but then we're like, hey, why don't, because we were doing like Zoom Live or Instagram Lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we're like, why don't we make this a podcast? But then none of us knew what the hell we were doing. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. 1, I don't do cardistry. 2, I don't do magic. I just am a schmuck that likes playing with cards. That's all I am. So I'm like, you know what? You have Dan, who's a creator, James, who's a designer, John, who's a deck cutter, and me, I don't do shit but this. So I become the editor of the podcast. And of course, you know, me being me, I reach out to everybody I could think of in the community that has done this, aka, if you haven't heard, Cardistry Tyler Herget, awesome guy. He's great with editing. So I've reached out to him many a times to be like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And he's helped me out a lot. But yeah, so I'm the schmuck that does all this. And then the only thing I'm doing is like, hey, guys want a podcast tonight? Sure, why not? Fine.
Yeah, he forces us to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, we have, normally you would have to have like a set, like, hey, we're doing this today, we're doing this next week, yeah, we don't do that. We just pick a topic literally like an hour before we're about to record. We're like, hey, you guys want a podcast tonight? Sure, what are we talking about? Oh, this, okay, fine. And then we just,
I think it's good. You just let the topic come up.
Yeah.
However, it's going to be the theme of the podcast.
And
We'll find you somehow.
yeah, and
Flow.
normally for us, every time we talk, we end up talking about food a lot.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's weird.
We end up talking about a lot of food just because we're both fat asses over here. You know, I'm from the East Coast, Dan's from the West Coast. We have really conflicting views of food. You know, Dan has avocados and everything. Me, I'm just pizza from New York. You know, that's
Bagels, right? And bagels.
Yeah, and bagels. And then Texas, of course, barbecue. You can't.
Well, I was about to say I must be right in the middle, perfectly in the middle, because I could go avocado or pizza. That would work for me.
And so,
Just don't put avocados on pizza.
No.
That's kind of
no.
And Paul, the only thing I'm sorry to say, the only English food I know is fish and chips. Only thing I know.
Funny you should say that. I had that tonight in the hotel.
I mean, hey.
Although I'm from Yorkshire, so you must need to learn about Yorkshire pudding because it is a classic.
I gotta try stuff. Unfortunately, here, I mean, granted, in New York, being that we have a very international market and there's a lot of food, I live in a neighborhood where it's predominantly Asian, so I have a lot of Chinese, Korean, Japanese food right around me. So everybody's like, "Oh, you have dim sum, hot pot, I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't go out and eat by myself. I don't go out by myself. I'm like, I just sit at home.
You'll never know the joys of eating alone until you do it. I'm just saying. But anyway,
I do. I travel all over the place on my own. So yeah, I get used to saying table for one, please. Table for one. Are you expecting? No, it's all right. I'm on my own.
See, I'm not there yet. I've just gotten recently used to going to like the movies by myself. So
that's
I'm like,
even a better experience. You know what's even the best experience by yourself that I've had?
What is that?
Go to a baseball game by yourself.
Right.
You don't have to watch out for anybody else or anything. You just walk around. You know, it's good. Yeah.
That I haven't
just
done.
aimlessly walk around by yourself.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about anybody else. You can do what you want.
But then again, he's also Oakland A's fan, so there's nobody in the stadium. So hence he could do that.
There's plenty. You buy a ticket, you get the whole section to yourself.
Yeah. Literally. If you ever, Paul, so if you ever watch or ever see a game of the Oakland Athletics playing the home game, it is, unless they're playing someone really important, it's usually empty.
Is it?
Yeah, it's usually an empty stadium. But you know, you have diehard fans like him. I mean, it's the same thing as if you're playing football. Like in the European in Europe, they call it football, not soccer. Sorry, guys, if you're watching this and you're American, everywhere else in the world they call it football, not soccer. We call football NFL. Different story. But yeah, over there, I mean, I've been to Europe many times. I've gone to many football games in Europe. European fans of football are another breed. Same thing with South American fans. It is, you can't. They're just wild about their clubs. They will go deadly on them.
Yeah.
I don't argue with them. I just, whenever I go to a football game, if I'm with friends, I'm just like, what team are we cheering? Which football club? I don't know, whichever one you want. I'm cheering for that one. That's it.
But that same passion that Europeans have about football it shares the same passion with Daniel to watch his team baseball on his own.
Yep.
But
But you know what? That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing. No, but so getting back, of course, as we've said this before, we go off on tangents a lot.
Yes, we do.
I
wanted to ask
here we go.
a question here because I just pulled it up. It reminded me when I was looking at it earlier. Your reward structure where you have this add-on package without the cards, I think it's freaking brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that before because your add-ons are enticing enough on their own. And I've just never seen a campaign do it like, here, you just want the add-ons, here you go, you can add the deck in the add-on section after. Like, that is what guy made you guys decide to do that? Because I've never seen that before.
Well, I had done it for Brush with Death. I don't want to claim originality in this because I know that I saw someone else do it and I was like, this is a genius idea. And so, like, being able to, I mean, one of the things that I really like about Kickstarter is the fact that you can get these other little items and stuff sometimes. And it's like, yeah, there's the deck of cards, but like you also can get this little collector item thing that's like just as cool and hopefully had just as much thought put into it, you know? And I think that, you know, some collector bundles or whatever, they'll like, you have to get the whole shebang. And so I think it's like, you know, what if you just wanted one deck, but you also want just one of all those other things? And
a vial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's such a nice way for people to, I guess, have your cake and eat it too.
I mean, great idea. I actually, when I saw that, because I'm honest and transparency to everybody who's listening, I have backed this deck. I was, you know, almost like day one backer of this one. And I think I reached out to you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. And I remember seeing it and I was like looking, the one thing that I loved was actually the poster, but I think I reached out to you, Paul, and I was like, hey, how big is this poster so I know what kind of frame to get when the poster's ready? That was the one thing I was like looking for, but I was like, but also the fact that I was reading it, you put as much attention even to the poster as you did with all your other bundles where the poster's foiled also.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Merlin did an amazing job on that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I was like, this is definitely something that's, I hope it really does fun because you're about just over halfway with a week left. I think hopefully people will see this and actually be like, yo, this is actually a really good deck.
And like you said with the poster, it's like, of course, this is just the one that we have up there is obviously just a render. But I mean, I can't wait to actually see the real gold, the red foil and everything on the poster. How cool that's gonna look. So it's almost kind of like that's another reason I think why we do this is just because we're like we just want to see these things get made, and so it's like it's just fun.
Yeah.
So
I haven't backed it. I'm interested. Okay. I haven't really been on Kickstarter the last like month or two looking to buy stuff because I've been creating my own campaign that launches soon. So you guys know how time consuming that is and like stress, right? So, but looking at it, one question, why didn't you go full borderless? Because this screams like a borderless deck, almost like a casino style deck, or was that not in the cards?
Well, I don't know if you want to talk to that, Paul, but I also can chime in to say that we've had some friends like Dan Williams with his Champions deck that he made it very clear how unhelpful that like USPCC can be whenever it comes to getting nice alignment
Yep.
And
Okay.
I mean, even looking at some of my Brush with Death decks that are bordered, I mean, like you can see their alignment is off on some of them. And it's just, I wonder if they do that for just like smaller runs. But I mean, you can also go get a pack of Bicycle and be like, this is the most shifted image I've ever seen in my life. And so, but yeah, it's just getting those borderless decks printed. It really does it really does depend on the design, because if the design has any symmetry or geometrical shapes and patterns to it, and they screw up by just, you know,
Which
a
they will.
millimeter, it's
Which
obvious.
they will. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Didn't even think. You know, I didn't even think of that. But that makes sense
That
because
does make sense.
their registration, as everybody knows, is god awful.
It's shit. I mean, that's why. But that's why it's also like, because you guys are printing with
USB-C.
USB-C.
Yeah. I was like trying to figure out, because we were actually, because Dan and I were talking like about for example, we had our own deck. We had crafters. We were trying to figure out who do we want to print with, and for us, we were like, let's go with USPCC just because everybody knows it, everybody trusts it. It's our first deck. We really wanted to get people to trust it. But now we've been thinking about it. I'm like, there's so many other printers now that are doing amazing work. It's like USPCC had a stranglehold almost on the community with printing for so long, but I think now you have people like, for example, of course, everybody, and by the way, I'm using Jet Setter's limited edition back. So EPCC, great handling deck, stiff as hell, thick, but they handle really well. Same like Cardamundi, everybody knows. But then there's also people like Hansen Chen that's doing really well. They do really good work there. Even WJPC, even though I'm sorry to say, Dan, love your junior year deck. That shit does not faro for a goddamn thing.
Okay, you know what? No.
I cannot faro, and I'm the guy. And I'm the guy.
What is the printer of that deck?
WJPC.
Of my junior year.
Yeah.
Okay, look.
It's
back, it was stupid. Okay, and that's why my next one's gonna. That's why I'm going the way I'm going the next one. But yeah, you're right. There are different stocks and stuff like that. But the argument always comes back, and you can't argue with them right now. USPCC has the best stock.
They do, and that's that. I mean,
even on 1,000 print runs, even without the crush stock, their stock is phenomenal.
The printing might suck, but the stock is amazing. And
I tell you what, though, one underdog that I know Paul and I can both contest is that MPC. Yep. We get all our prototypes from MPC, and I will tell you that they have been exceeding my expectations every time. Yep. And so there are so many companies out there, and I mean, and that's something that we've talked about, is just like who to print with and there's like some printers that have minimum runs, or some that have, like you have to get this much. And so I guess it really just depends on what your like main goal is. If you need that buttery smooth, feel from USPC, or if you're just trying to make a collector's deck that looks nice and now unfortunately doesn't faro, but
seriously.
Oh, dude, it doesn't at all. It's terrible.
And here's a question that Dan and I always ask, and we always, we've asked ourselves as well. For you guys, besides USPCC, because everybody loves their stock, which printing company's stock do you prefer the most? Excluding USPCC.
Yeah. Well, with the Hamza, I went with Hansen, and I really loved it. I wasn't sure about what stock I wanted, and I ended up getting some MPC decks, Hansen, and I just felt Hansen's was just a nice mix between Cartamundi, so not too thin, but not too thick as bikes and USPCC, and they get a bit sticky now and again. But I really liked Hansen. But yeah, I would love to see what the best stock of MPC is, and
so would I.
Because their normal stock that you get your prototypes on are amazing.
Yeah, I still have prototypes from like years ago that are great.
Yeah.
I've still got Hamza prototype, which is just absolutely, brilliant. Got a bit of muck on it, but it hasn't lost its shape. So for me, I mean, I would like. It's really good because we've already had this segue into there's other providers out there, and I think people are going to have to start looking at other providers and trying, and whether it is WJPC, you tried it and you thought, well, no, it's not me, But the idea is it got a deck out into people's hands. I think from a USPCC point of view, I think they just got complacent with the market, and I think now people are going to start to change because even the last couple of years you've heard a lot of undertones from certain about the stock's brilliant, but the printing
is not.
Yeah. And you would think,
and you'd think with a big company like that, and and the technology that we have today, they should pretty much get it bang on for what you're paying for.
yeah, and you would think because USPCC was bought out by Cartamundi, you would think because Cartamundi always has good registration, you would think be like, hey, the parent company is like, we make really good cards, you should too. But all of a sudden it's like they're like, hey, we bought your company, we're gonna reap the benefits, but you just keep doing whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, give us something. The only time I've ever seen really good registration from USPCC is their rider backs, because that thing is built in. It's their bread and butter deck. Those registrations are always spot on. So we know they have the capability of doing it, but they just don't want to do it for small creators.
I don't know. Like I said before, I've seen some rider decks that have some shit registry too.
I mean, maybe I'm lucky because the rider backs, almost every rider back I have is almost. Maybe less than half a millimeter off, but they're almost spot on for the ones that I've used, I should say.
I agree. For the vast majority, they're good, but there are some ones that sneak through. Like, man, these must have gotten for the Dollar Tree or something, like, because.
But like even like when I printed my second deck with them, they were like, oh hey, we might have to reprint everything because we looked at a few batches and the registration was really bad. I'm like, now you're concerned? I've never heard you be concerned before. Like
the quality control.
Yeah.
You would think. So Dane, now your favorite stock, because Paul answered.
I would also say because I mean I feel like except for what is it, WJPC, I have not gone through them, but I feel like I've gone through all the majors. So I've gone through Cartamundi, gone through Hansen, and USPC. So, I mean, I will have to say going through Hansen was probably my second favorite because of just like how Paul said, the stock is nice. And they're also really nice too as far as the company. I mean, they sent out, a pack of prototypes just to be like, hey, here's all our different stocks and styles, like, so that you know what you want, and it was great to be able to like actually feel something and know what you're gonna get. But then I feel like there's always a downside for all these companies, and one of the downsides from Hansen for my part was just the shipping, because getting all these cards from Taiwan over to America was just like, it was tough, and like
Yep.
And it's not like it's his fault. It's not his fault at all. It's just like the inconvenience of having to go through customs and all of them do their crap. I mean, I lost a box of Shadows for a good 3 months until it just showed up. But like, so I guess that's where USPC kind of came in, where I could like not have to worry about the shipping, and it was like it's local, or it's domestic, so it's like not like I have to pay these outrageous shipping prices. And so it's kind of like you wish that you could have, as I said before, your cake and eat it too, because it's like I would love to always print with Hansen, but just get the shipping of USPC.
But we've alluded one thing though by Hansen Chen products: they stink.
Yeah, the smell.
The smell is
nice USPC smell.
Oh my god! I remember the first time I ever opened a Hansen Chen was actually by almost over a year ago. It was actually over a year ago. It was from Ash Marlowe when he did his 8-card code deck. He was doing Hansen Chen. It was my first ever Hansen Chen product, or deck, I should say. And he was like, "Be careful of the smell." I open it. I'm like, you know what? It can't be that bad. Open it. I took a big sniff. Oh my god. I am like, what the fuck is
Very
this?
chemically.
Oh my!
Yeah.
I thought I burnt. Funny enough, is I thought I burnt my nostrils off, like all my sense of smell. And for me, that's really bad because I work in the wine business, so my sense of smell is really important. So I'm like, oh shit, this is. But then after about a good like 30 minutes of just playing around with the cards, the smell wafted off. But I do like their stock, and also I think Dan, you said the Black Roses cold foil was theirs as
Yes.
well, which I thought. I
Yes.
mean, that's why from that deck actually, I really like their stock from Hansen Chen. Like you said, Paul, it's like it's not as thin as Cardamundi, but not as thick as Riders, like in that in between spot.
Yeah.
And it's funny because everybody knows I have huge hands and I like thicker stock cards. So my favorite stock was always the original B9 card stock from Cardamundi, not the slim line.
Yeah.
So that's why I really gravitate to EPCC because the thicker stock. That's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know Dan's going to say USPCC, and that's fine.
What?
I
Oh,
mean,
you want me to answer?
have a
I mean,
trademark
we might as
smell.
well.
You want me to answer?
Might as
Okay,
well. They should know. We know. Avid listeners of the podcast know your favorite
yeah,
stock,
but my
they
opinion
don't.
changes all the time.
I mean,
You know,
that's
like
true.
I mean,
That's true.
right now, like I just go by. I keep grabbing Cardamundi decks right now.
Yeah.
So of the month, that's kind of the deck that I Cardamundi, the stock I kind of go with. But I'm gonna print with Hansen Chen, so those stocks are awesome and great,
And they will stink like shit.
and I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean that is the one
Imagine
thing.
Imagine getting a gross of Hansen Chen decks, uncelloed, open the box.
That's why all this shit goes to the fulfillment center first before it comes to me. I don't have to
Sorry, Henry.
thousands of decks.
Yeah, I mean that classic USPCC smell is just like, you know, it just brings back memories. It smells so good, and then so they kind of got this monopoly on that where it's like you can't really match it with anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the thing for me is like with USPCC and writer backs, it's a personal thing because I remember as a kid playing cards with my grandfather and using a USPCC writer back. You know, so it's like to me, it's like it's not just the smell; it's also the remembrance of like visually playing with cards with my grandfather, which meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So it's like they have a monopoly on it, like you said. I mean, they're one of the oldest companies out there that have been printing decks for forever. The Congress guy, Kevin, will probably tell us the whole history in the comments below. We know you're going to, Kevin. We're gonna get you on the podcast, Kevin. Trust me, you're on. Hopefully you hear this, which he probably will. He always listens, and he's a great guy. But yeah, it's like certain companies do things really right. It's like you wish you could find a company that takes a little bit of everything from all these other companies and puts it together. That's like a dream wish in this community. You know, I personally think the biggest thing, whether it be collectors, magicians, or creators, I think the biggest thing is registration on the deck.
Yeah.
They will all say the same thing. Registration needs to be on point. And USPCC, if you're listening to this, which you won't, but if you are, please fix it. They won't listen. They won't listen. We're too small. We're not a Chris Ramsey that can put a first logo on the back of a writer back and make it a first deck. I'm like, geez. Dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that kind of clout. We don't have the clout of him or David Blaine.
He almost didn't either.
He
but,
almost
okay.
Well, Orbit also did his circle on one of
The Tally-Ho's. The
the
Tally-Ho's.
Tally-Ho's, yeah.
Yep.
Keep
It's
those
like-
handy too, right here.
No, but it's just like seriously. So it's like to get the ear of like these big name companies, you need to have this big clout, and it's like, do you not realize that 90% of your customers are people like us that are collectors and small creators, whether it be printing or even just buying and collecting? Like you should be listening to 90% of your clientele, not the 10%. And it's like, geez, how much more money could you make?
Come on. Dude, they get all their money and stuff for the printing casino decks for casinos. That's where all their money comes from.
Borderless, they don't give a
us.
shit. Borderless, they don't give a shit. I mean,
I also think you know they need to start stepping forward as well to get creators creating and to get a lot of decks and creativity out there. They need to lower the printing. You know, quantities.
yeah.
You know, why have a minimum? You know, have a minimum of 500.
Yep.
You know, and then have 750, and then 1,000, and then
I
you know,
think-
and increments. I sort of like know from a business point of view that you know that's not where the money is, but you know, if you get a lot of those, that's going to be equivalent to one big you know, to one big thing of 1,000.
Oh, I
And
totally
it
agree with you.
means that there's more decks out there.
Yep, and I totally agree with you. I think who does the 500 print run? I think it's Cardamundi does a 500 print run.
Also Hanson.
Also, and
Hanson does as well.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if you go with that 500 print run, like you said, it's just like allows so many other creators to be like to hit a goal. Like let's say a goal is $8,000, for example, or 9,000. Half that you can hit $4,000, 4,500 USD, I should say, you know, not pounds.
Yeah.
But hit that half mark easily, you know, and it's just like, come on, let them do it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Dan, I think all three of you would say this, being creators, not me. But I think I've heard this also from all three of you, that if, Paul, just piggybacking on what you were saying, like for people to create a deck that's for you and not for anybody else. If you have a design, don't let anybody else influence you. Go with your gut, stick to your guns, and actually like make a deck that's for you, because it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's the biggest thing, whether it be in cards or even like in Magic, like creating whether it be a sleight or a trick, just go with it. Do something different. You know, don't listen to everybody saying, oh, you should use this method or use that method. Do what's good for you and create a new method.
Yeah, and that's, I mean,
absolutely. Go on, Dave.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, absolutely. You know, I always say to people, look, you've got to do the things that you want to do, and the way that you want to do it, and sit on it for a bit. If you're not really sure, sit on it and just keep looking at it, and just keep, you know, and then you'll know whether or not to change it. And there's so many people out there that says, oh, you know, again, you know what you were saying, Chris. Oh, you must do it this way, or you must do it that way, or you must go with that. Well, actually, no. You know, there's lots of different ways to get to 10. I don't have to go 5 at 5. I can go 2 and 8, and I'm still going to get there. You know, and I think people have to, you know, it's great to give advice and you know, and guide them. And I will always be the first one to get back to anybody. If I've got the time, I'll get back to, you know, and ask, just give them some guidance, whatever. But for me, it is about that. Give them guidance, let them go with it, you know. And creativity is all about being able to just express yourself. Dan, Dane, you know, myself, there's a lot of you that goes in that deck, and that's why it's a labour of love, and that's why you're so passionate about getting it out there. Yeah. You know, and that's the important thing about creating decks for me, or creating anything, you know, creating a trick, creating an effect, etc. You know, there's loads of methods out there, but you know, there's nothing wrong with taking that method and then plotting it with that method. It's never been there before, you know, and it creates something very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why even as this campaign goes on, I've thought about, you know, just like the next kind of like things that that I might do, and maybe even kind of moving away from using USPCC, just so that way it's just like I don't always have to be trying to kill myself to make this like $7,000, $8,000, you know, reward or like goal, and do like smaller runs, 500. There's some companies that do 250, you know, and like like USPCC is so hard because you want their quality, but then like if you want anything like on the box, like the bare minimum is like you are gonna spend like $4,500 on the bare minimum, like just nothing, you know. If you want anything nice, like, which is like what people are like really attracted to, is like the gold foils and the embossings and stuff like that, your deck just doubled in price. And it's just kind of like how can we create things if it's impossible to like to raise this kind of money? But if I got a smaller goal of 250, you know, that is more doable than something that's like 1,000 card run,
right?
Like
And then
USPC.
And then those other companies can do the boxes for you.
Yeah.
In house with the cards at the same time. So then you don't have to double your funding call. Then send your cards to gamblers to have them do your tucks if that's what they're doing. Oh shit! Well, I'm gonna guild these decks now. I got to send them somewhere else to guild them. That's kind of why I liked Hanson, and I was talking with Legends as well, that they do all of that in house.
Yeah,
you got to deal with the shipping, which is god awfully expensive, and then the wait time and hope nothing gets lost. But like, at least they do everything all in house.
True.
Yeah.
You know, I like the when my second campaign, I had USPC printed this. I had a local people do the tuck case. I had stuff everywhere, and it drove me nuts. I'm like, I cannot do that again. My brain can't handle it.
I mean, even Hanson is like cool enough to do like custom tuck boxes and stuff too. Like my buddy Bill did the smokers, and his box looks like a pack of cigarettes that opens up like that. And Hanson was the one who, yeah, there you go. Faces by Dane Volmus. But the box itself, you know, is so cool, and that the fact that they were able to do that in house was awesome. Like, I think,
I always
like you said, if you were going to go to Gamblers or if you're going to go to USPC, you know, who knows who would have had to make your box then?
Yeah. And I always like to say it's like a rising tide raises all ships. So it's like, hopefully these other companies that are doing all in house will actually say to like the Goliath of the community, which is USPC, be like, hey, we're getting there. We're getting notoriety. You better fix your standards. You know, because a lot of their standards are going out the window. I think between their QC and then, you know, even sometimes, I mean, granted, I've dealt with a little bit, you probably have as well, Dane or Dan have dealt with their customer service, which is, their customer service is actually really nice. You know, they get back to you, they're very responsive, they're really nice, but it's just, their printing sucks, and I'm sorry, their Metalux sucks also. Their foiling, their Metalux sucks. Chips.
Once you ask how much it is to print to use the Metalux, then you'll.
That's why I will not. That's why I will not. That's why I will not. I mean, I even have their Metalux rider backs. They suck. I mean,
the actual like the look of them or how they feel.
Both. Both, hands down. It's like honestly, it's almost as if they were like, hey, let's do foiling on the back or even on the tuck. But you know what? Let's make no definition of lines. Let's just put a whole stamp of foil right here.
Yeah, it's like a nice smooth, continuous. Yeah, there's no
definition, nothing. I'm just like, and then it starts chipping, and then you're like, what the? And then on top of that, the clumping right out of the box too. It's like they clump. It's like they clump more than a gilded deck. And it's sad. And I'm like, how is this possible when you have, like, for example, with Hanson Chen, when I got the Black Roses cold foil, smooth as silk, right out of the tuck. It's like, geez, yeah, like
it's really, I mean, I know it's on camera, but like it is really hard in person to see the feedback on this Metalux.
I literally thought you were just showing me a blue deck. I did not know it
is really hard. You can barely see it on the camera, and you can barely see it in person.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that bad. No, but it's actually funny because we were talking about NPC. I actually, do you guys know Jaren from Cactus Playing Cards?
I don't.
Yeah.
So Jaren is an awesome guy. He's done a few decks already called Cactus Playing Cards. His last campaign that he did, it's over there. I can't reach it from here. But he printed with NPC. He did a full campaign just straight with NPC. He was like, you know what? I'm going to make my goal lower. And if, you know, he wanted to meet a minimum of, I think, 100 decks or so. He's like, you know what? After that, I'm just doing custom. As many as I need. If he prints, like, let's say he needed to print, for example, if he had to print 350, he would do 400 to get the break. But he printed that minimum amount, and I have about 3 or 4 of his decks from that campaign. Smooth. I think NPC, like you guys were saying, great decks. They're doing
They're an underdog, I swear.
They really are. I mean, honestly, from where they were when I first got in this community, I first got my first ever NPC prototype like 2.5 years ago. Clumpy, crappy, just didn't work. And now I'm getting prototypes and NPC stock. I'm just like, wow, are these Hanson Chen? Are these EPCC? I'm like, whoa, these are handling really well.
But see, to your point though, so you had a guy, he did Cactus. You've done a few decks with USPCC, right?
Yep.
So then he noticed the campaigns were kind of not being as good as they used to be. So then he's like, I want to keep making decks. So he shifted gears to a smaller printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not really a smaller printer, but a printer
to get
smaller print runs. Which, like you said earlier, Paul, it's like make it a smaller print run, make it more affordable and more lucrative for creators. Because, for example, as Dan knows, I'm looking at creating my own deck soon as well. I mean, we have our own crafters deck that we all created, aka James designed it. amazing deck. Unfortunately, it's going to come back. We're going to hit that back on Kickstarter. But, you know, I'm thinking of doing my own, but I'm like, you know what? I might not go with USPCC right off the bat. Yeah, so
Yeah.
James, one of the guys, one of our brothers, literally designed that deck, and it was, I don't know how he does it. He did this in
I don't either.
like 35 minutes. He designed it. He's like, I'm done. We're like, I'm done. And then, it was hilarious. We're asking him, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? He's like, done. 10 minutes later, we're like, holy shit, you just slapped that together. He's like, yeah.
Some people have that talent though.
Yeah, some people have the talent. He's like, once he gets focused, he's in. He's like, he's zoned in and he knocks it out. Me, I don't have that talent, so I think I might. I think I might have a little bit of ADD where I'm like, oh, I'm doing something, squirrel. I'm like, okay, I got to do this now. So, but I always try to come back. But yeah, like with me with editing, people know that, you know, this, of course, because you guys have such a short campaign, this is going to hopefully be out the same day we record.
Yeah, usually takes like 3 weeks to edit a podcast.
It takes me like a week usually, because between, you know, I also work every day, and
work.
I mean, we all got to work, you know, between working every day and just household things I have to do around the house on my own because I live on my own. You know, I try to get it done, but editing takes some time. As no matter how streamlined you've gotten it, editing takes forever. Even editing playing cards, it could take forever. Be like, you think you have this dialed in, but then you're like, you know what? I got to take a step back. I got to do something else for a little bit, and then come back to it with fresh pair of eyes.
How many late nights did you sit there and stare at the Illustrator or whatever you use for designing, going, this is this one little thing, and you just, God, I hate it.
I mean, and that, like, speaking back to like how I had said before, that was kind of like the great thing about making this deck was the fact that we completely just took our time, you know, like, yeah, we could come back with, you know, 20 different designs for something, but I think the best thing was being able to look at a design, even though it looks great, be like, how can we continue to refine it and make it look even better? And so I think that's one luxury we were afforded while working on this.
Nice. And question for you, Dane. How do you go about your designing method? Do you do pencil and paper, or are you straight digital?
So, I mean, I guess it really depends on what I'm working on. But as far as like playing cards is concerned, I usually will stay within the digital realm, just because, I mean, yeah, you can draw it out and scan it and all that kind of stuff. But then I feel like once it's in Illustrator or Photoshop, then you're gonna have to do even more work to make this sketch or drawing look nice and clean. Whereas, like, you might as well just start in Photoshop or Illustrator and just start off clean. So yeah, most of the time I am doing my digital work. I have a Wacom tablet, so it's like I have my stylus and I'm able to draw on the screen. And to me, it's just as good as being able to get a pencil and a pad and start drawing from there, except when you draw on a pencil and pad, there's no undo buttons. So
Yeah.
computers
are nice for that reason.
Okay.
No, yeah, because I always ask, because I know everybody has their own method of doing it. Just be like, hey, are you a digital person or old school traditional person? And I think nowadays a lot of people are doing digital and not pencil. I think, Dan, we've only talked to maybe another creator that started with pencil, and then
This thing's beautiful, dude. I'm telling you. That's how I do it. My iPad with the Illustrator, and then I move it right to the computer. Though I can't draw with shit, so that's why probably I like Illustrator better, because it makes me think like I can.
I mean, and to be fair, my degree is in painting and drawing, so it's like I initially started everything that I did painting, and in pencil. And then once this kind of technology came out, and you're able to do it on a tablet, it kind of just streamlined everything, where it's kind of like it's just so more convenient. And like I still find myself making physical drawings and stuff like that, but now my more physical drawings are just like sketches of where I want my digital stuff to go. So
I think it makes sense. And now the big question for both of you: what got you into this community? Or what got you into cards?
Okay, so I was always interested in magic. When I was a kid, I always remember being at my grandparents and seeing it around near Christmas and seeing Paul Daniels on TV, etc. And it was always something that interested me, but I never thought how do I get into it? You know, because it was always that secret society type thing, and I lived in a small town, which you never really found anything like that out unless you went to a bigger city. So it was in my early 20s, which is going back a few years now. In my early 20s, I was really heavily into Derren Brown. Being from the UK and stuff, I watched everything about Derren Brown. I love the psychology stuff. I love the mentalism sort of stuff. So it started off with me getting his book, and there was a little coin trick in his book which taught you a coin trick, and you basically lapped it, etc. And I remember doing it for it was my wife's cousins. It was around Christmas time. I did it. I just saw the reaction. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. And so I just got in my early 20s. Started doing the cards, trying to get into cards, etc. I was always into Daniel Madison. I was always into David Blaine because David Blaine hit hit the heights then. I was never a really good card, sleight of hand when I first started. So then I end up going into mentalism and doing the whole mentalism stuff and getting all into that. And that's how I got to meet Pete Turner and heard about Pete Turner and Luke Jimé and Max Spellman. There was my early sort of like, obviously Max Maven. And then I went back to cards and yeah, I really loved and embraced it. So now whenever I do anything with cards, there's always that mentalism bit that goes in there. So it's not just pure sleight of hand. There's always something that's going on in your head. So yeah, creating. I always wanted to do my own deck. And it just started with I just started with a drawing, pencil, paper, of a Hamza hand. And that was it really, and that's when I got into sort of like deck designing and stuff like that. I've always been into art when I was younger anyway, but yeah, Dane the digital master, he digitalized it all for me and stuff like that, because yeah, me at my age and digital and stuff like that, I'm a technical, so yeah,
Awesome.
so that was me really.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess for me it was like I mentioned before, like I went to school for painting and drawing, so I have my BFA in painting and drawing. So that was, originally what I wanted to do, until I realized that, like, unless you're like getting yourself into galleries and stuff like that, this world is kind of hard to do this painting and drawing stuff and actually make a good living off of. So you gotta adapt with the times, and that's kind of where this, like, all the digital stuff kind of came, is like, if you're not able to do it on digital, then your market shrinks very, very small. And so, like, that's kind of like how I eventually went from like more like physical drawings to more digital stuff. And even at the end of my schooling, I was trying to incorporate magic and magicians within my art, and did, like, paintings and drawings of magicians and stuff like that. So as the years go on, and like Paul says, like, people like David Blaine and Daniel Madison come out, and you see like what they're doing, it just kind of like inspires you to like want to do it yourself. And yeah, just I kind of came to this like conclusion of, I want to be able to combine my art and magic together. And at first, like, it was, and I don't know if anybody has seen these before, but I had started doing these card arts that were, I would cut out cards and I would make pictures of them. So I called it card art. And so what I wanted to do was like take all these decks of cards, cut them all up, and make really cool pieces of art out of them. And actually, I have one hanging up here that I'll quick flash. But these are all playing cards, and so I wanted to take playing cards and be able to make art out of it. And as I saw that wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do, that's where making playing cards just seemed to be that exact answer of being like, here's where you can put all your digital and your artistic design into play, and then secondly, now you can use this to incorporate your magic into, use it as your own. I mean, I made the brush with death, and now I take that to all my magic gigs. I don't even use a writer deck anymore. Like I just take my own deck with me. So it's like been nice to be able to like finally incorporate myself into my art and my magic, and it feels like it's just like all come together, I guess.
Awesome.
I think as well, Daniel, you might have get there's nothing like, and Dane, you're talking about art, but there's nothing like knowing that somebody else has got your deck of cards, your 52 pieces of art,
Yeah.
and it's like it's really humbling. It's
Very.
so humbling. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I still, people still post stuff, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
huh? Why? I'm like, I know this stuff, got funded and made, but it's still just like people actually use them and post pictures
Yeah.
of them, and they like
Yeah.
them, and I'm like, and it's just so weird and like awesome at the same time. And
I find it surprising even when it's like a deck that you made like a while back.
Yeah.
And you start
Yeah.
seeing people post pictures out of it. And I'm like, whoa, for me, this deck is like, seems like so far away, but for you, it's like, you just got it and you're happy. And like, so it's
Yeah.
like very refreshing to see that.
Yeah, it's something I wish all creators that want to create a deck of cards get to experience at some point, because
Absolutely.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day I'll get there. I'm getting inspired just listening. I'm like, oh, maybe one day. But then I'm like, then all of a sudden I talk to Dan. We've had side conversations. I'm like, Dan, what do you think of this deck? And he's like, oh, so you want to do this, and this, huh? So why don't you try this, and this, or do this? I'm just like, oh, there's a lot more than I thought that I got to do. I'm just like, and then all of a sudden my ADD kicks in, I think, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I'm doing this. Wait, oh right, I got to play a game. Let me go do something.
See, and that's where we're getting, getting a designer on your side. You can just hand them all your cliff notes and go, okay, let me know what you come up with.
Yeah.
And you can do your own thing, and then they come back and because I my first couple I did the first one. I had someone Darren Lee digitize it for me because I didn't know it. And then my second one, I got back design, but I did all the face cards. So like I was kind of doing, I didn't feel fully confident to do all of it. Junior year, I did the backs, but then I took Darren's face cards from a deck he wasn't gonna make anymore because it just fit. And then this new one, I just gave it to James, and I gave him money and I gave him my ideas, and I go, here, you just do it.
No, but sometimes it's good, like what you were saying before, Paul, having someone like, for example, like Dane, that you told him all your ideas, like with the Hamza deck, like what you wanted done, be like, here, how would you put your spin on this? Because you're so hyper focused on one thing, sometimes getting that extra set of eyes, being like, here's my parameters, how would you do it? And that usually is like the best way to go about it sometimes. Especially if you're not artistically inclined like myself.
I mean, sometimes when you've got it on paper, it looks brilliant, but then when you see, on a card, it's we need to get rid of that. I mean, with the Hamza, me and Dane went through quite a few, back designs to start off with, because it was just either too busy, it just didn't fit, it just looked like something was plonked on top, and eventually, Dane came up with that, and it was like, that is it, that's the one. We can we have some koi fish in there? Can we have this in there? Can we have these? All right, we're going to make it. We're going to make it, and we're going to make it marked. And I think that's a good thing as well. It's like, it was my idea, but it was about giving it to somebody who knows that art and knows what looks really well, and actually saying, well, I might have this picture of what I want in my head, but I've got to have a bit of leeway because it might not look as good on there. And then it's like, Dane with that, it's like, okay, then I like that, we'll have that, keep that in.
It's almost like having it's almost like having a producer and an editor of a movie, for example. The producer is thinking one way, but then you have the director with all the actors saying, no, we should actually do it this way.
Absolutely.
And it's like that's I think will be the best analogy, I think.
Yeah,
and that's one great thing about working in like as a collaboration, is that even when we worked on Trinity, having three people, like having all three people put their input on stuff to the point where it's like, one person came and brought something, but then that something was elevated to like such a higher point because then another two people had ideas that they thought would make this look even better. And that's kind of what this whole deck is about, is that we would Merlin would send something and I'd be like, oh, what about this? And then like I'd send something, he'd be like, what about this? And then so it's like between all three of us just like working and looking at something for so long, we kind of like made it, like I said, jointly, and everything that's in the deck is like such a amalgamation of all three of us that like I think it really was nice to have that many people inputting.
Yeah, it would just start off with that seed of idea, and then it just how everybody had a different perception and a different take on it, and then that it works, and not all the ideas came to fruition, but it all started off with that original idea, and we went through that, and then we came up with something what we thought was better. So.
Well, I mean, it clearly shows because it does look really good. I like the back design. I really love the faces. Yeah, I really like the custom pips, but like still recognizable, because that's key. I think, especially when you're going for a deck you want people to use.
The king of clubs. The king of clubs, right here.
This fucking guy.
Just saying.
So
just saying.
I don't want to ask this, but I kind of have to.
Do it.
If it doesn't fund, are you going to revisit this and try it again? Because I think you got something here, and I know we talked earlier that started this, that the market's kind of in this weird flux, but like, if it doesn't hit your goal, are you going to revisit this, or you guys got something else going on, or you're just going to wait and see this out and then reevaluate everything then?
I think we'll probably, we'll see what happens. We'll reevaluate. If it doesn't, then we'll just reevaluate and set. And it might not have been that time of year. As I say, it's a different market. It's really hard at the moment. I think that's a conversation that we'll just all get our heads around. I don't think it's a design that can be just put in the back of a closet and forgot about.
No, it's a beautiful design.
We there might be things that we refine, whether it's to do with the way that we marketed it. One of the things that we did test and was not having an early bird on the Kickstarter. We never had an early bird, but what we did is we had early bird all the way through. So it was money off decks from one deck all the way up, but you got more off. I think if you bought a brick. So we wanted something that was quite open for everybody as well. Because you usually get that early bird, and everybody jumps on that early bird, and it's like, oh, they've gone. And you're still gonna have that thing of, are people gonna? And it was a bit of an idea which we thought, and I don't know. We'll definitely refine things if it doesn't make it, and we'll definitely have a look it back, and it's a lesson, isn't it? We all learn.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And like Paul said, like we have already kind of had that talk, like about like what do we do if in the event something like this happens, and kind of to what we were saying earlier is that maybe it's better to explore different printers, and we want this deck to get made, so the only way to get it made would be to have a goal that is within our reach, and maybe going through a different printer will allow us to be able to get to that goal. I'm kind of, and I can't really speak for Merlin or Paul on this one, but like I'm kind of the mind that like I do want the cards to be of good, physical quality, but I also am happy with how the actual artistic quality is of them, that I could be fine with sacrificing not getting USPC stock just to be able to make this deck become a reality, and so
it's getting it's just like getting your artwork out to the people.
Well, like I said, I like it. It's a good deck. I don't see anything wrong with it. You know what I mean? Like I think it might be the market. I have no idea. I don't.
And it's so hard to know what.
Right. It is very hard to know, because like some decks you're like, that thing's a piece of shit, and then it gets like 30 grand, and you're like, what the fuck?
And like I said,
even with Yuma's deck, like why the hell did that not get any support? Because that deck was awesome. From an awesome guy. Like I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't get this shit sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
have people, and then unfortunately, like we've said before, then you have people that, and we've said this on the podcast before, if you guys have heard us, you get people that are big names in the community, but go radio silent for like 8 months out of the year, come out of nowhere, have a deck ready, and their goal is
Yeah.
like $50,000, and they blow that up. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, but then you have people like you two who are very active in the community, who are very part of the community, really answer people, talk to people, but then the community doesn't want to support you. It's just like,
Yeah.
or they don't come out in mass to help out another person in the community. It's just like,
Yeah. It's just
come
I
on,
don't
like
get it.
these big names. I think it's like, I've said this before. I think these big names should get knocked off their pedestal, so to speak, the way they feel, because if it wasn't for the people below them, they would not be where they're at, and they lost. I think they have lost sight of that, and I think us as a community could do so much better than just rely on these, like, 4, 5, maybe 6 creators that are at the top, and it's just like enough is enough. Like there's so many people that are doing great work, like what you guys are doing,
Yeah.
but don't get the notoriety, and that just irks the hell out of me.
I think it's also like kind of a battle with social media and stuff like that. Being able to try to address like what the algorithm is actually wanting, and then for you to have to be able to play this stupid algorithm game even in the first place. I just feel like if I post my shit, like, why can't you people, or why can't it just go out to everybody, and like,
Yeah.
why can't they just see it? Why do you have to put your little fingers in it and be like, well, this person, is more popular, so this is why they're getting their stuff shown, and kind of like, it's kind of like you just, it's hard to know, it's hard to pinpoint what am I doing wrong, and like, how can I do it better?
Yeah.
When it's just like, it just is so ethereal. You're like, what is that thing that these other people are doing that is like, it gets them 100K? Like, I don't get it.
And it's like, but they all started just like you guys, like, or all of us, like small creators. It's like, why? What made them? What separated them? I mean, you've noticed like some of these big creators, like I said, they're not active on social media. They're not posting. They're not responding to people. They're not DMing with the community. They won't answer your DMs or anything. But then you have people like, for example, you two, and then we always say this all the time. Dan and I are basically, we're fanboys of this person, Luke Wadey. We're huge Wadey fans.
Yeah.
But you could you could DM him at any point of the day. He will always get back to you. That is, and like you guys, like if I would DM you guys, I know for a fact I'm gonna get a response back from you two, hands down.
Yeah.
Not even just like coming on the podcast, but if I asked you guys a question, boom, there'll be it. I remember, Paul, when you were in New York City. I mean, I think a year ago you came to New York, and granted, I reached out. I was like, oh, you're coming to the city. You were like, hey, let's meet up, grab a drink. Unfortunately, I couldn't because I was busy. But you asked me questions, I was answering, and I was asking you questions. It was just that constant flow of communication, which is lacking from those big guys. And it's like, it just irks them. People know my gripe with. There's certain creators that people know my gripe with, and if you followed me for a long time on my socials, you guys have.
The gentleman wake.
Not just. Oh no, there's another one. There's another one.
Yeah, I know
There's people that block you. I'm just leaving it at that. But
I think people get to a certain stage where they forget where they came from.
Yep.
And and they forget how hard it was when they were there, because all they're seeing is where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Luke Wadey. Luke gave me so much advice when I was bringing out the hams about what to do and stuff like that. And I couldn't thank him enough. He was just always on there, and Luke will always be there. I haven't heard from Luke in a long time, but I know that, again, if I want to message him within 24 hours, 48 hours, I'll have a message back saying, "Oh, how are you doing?" and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think that's what this. When I first got into this community, it was a community. It was, everybody was together, everybody was supporting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there just seems to, some things just seem to are lost at the moment. I don't know whether that's influence of social media or people getting too successful, whatever it is. But we need to get it back again.
Yes, I agree.
I mean,
and I will say to anybody out there watching this, if anybody gets in touch with me, I will get back to you. If I can answer it, I will get back to you.
Yeah.
If I can't, I'll try and get the answer.
For sure. I mean, Dan and I have said this. We need to bring the community back to basics. Bring the community back to the where it was, back to, you know, the basic thing of actually being a community and actually communicating and talking to each other. You know, and that's the whole thing. By the way, guys, so everybody watching, all their information will be down in the description below. All their YouTube channels, their Instagram handles, their Kickstarter campaign will be in the description. So definitely go check it out. You know, I'm gonna make sure it's there. You know, we will be blasting on social media for sure. You know, but all their description will be in the bottom. And also, guys, if you have any questions for, you know, Dane or Paul, leave them in the comments below. We'll get it to them. We'll ask them. Hopefully, you know, hopefully they'll reply and they'll let you guys know. But we will definitely let them know. But guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on this. We wish you the best of luck. And again, if this doesn't fun, knock on wood, it does. But if it doesn't, I think, you know, you guys know.
I've seen late rallies before.
Are you talking from?
What we're hoping for.
Are you talking from personal experience, Dan?
Well, mine too. But I've seen late rallies before. Okay, and you know, I will we'll get this episode out as soon as we can. I'll be sure to blast your stuff the next few days for sure as you lead up to the end of it. I threw a pledge at it while we were talking. So like I said,
Appreciate that.
You got something here, and hopefully it funds. If not, I really truly hope you guys come back to it. You know.
Sure. And I once again want to thank you guys both for having Paul and I on here, and
it's our pleasure.
Can't say how much it means for you guys to be there for us, because like you said, it's just like you kind of like look out into space and be like, does anybody support this kind of stuff? And it's good to see that, you know, there are people who do, and even though our community is small now, we hope that, you know, it gets even bigger, and hopefully in the future it's not as difficult to do these kind of things. So I really appreciate you guys
thank you
helping us for that reason.
Yeah, and guys, anytime you want to come on talk about anything or nothing at all, we're always
hopefully next time we can hopefully get John or James, get both of them on with all of us all together. That's Jesus Christ, that's a crazy edit I'm gonna have to do.
Okay. But see, nobody has to worry about the crazy edit, but you.
Fuck you all. That's on me. That's basically what happens. You know, I'm the one that has to deal with all this shit. It's fine. I will do it. I actually like doing it, so it's fine with me. But even like you were saying, Dane, about like supporting small guys. The whole reason why we started this was to actually, you know, put a highlight, because granted, we're all small. We don't have a big following. Like I have less than 1,000. Dan has just over 1,000 followers. You know, we're not
1,500, man. Come on.
More than I got.
Sure.
Hey, I don't have many, but we just want to be like, hey, we don't care. We honestly don't care about the followers. We don't care about the likes. We don't care about the shares. We're more about, if we can get our voices heard and give a platform for people, the smaller creators, to let them have an opportunity to be like, hey, we want to showcase something. We don't mind. We'll do it. Like we even said on every one of our podcasts, we almost always say, if anybody wants to join us on a podcast, reach out to us. You don't have to be a creator. You could be a regular person in the community. Doesn't matter. We will get you on a podcast. We will talk. We will have a good time. And that's just, that will always be our ethos. We do not, you know, we will not, I hope we don't. No, we won't. No, we will not. We will not sell out. We will not sell out. You know.
Well, yeah, I'd love to in the future join you guys again.
Yeah,
for sure. Anytime. You know, next time we gotta get you.
I'm down for that. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe hopefully next time. You know, if let's say it doesn't fun, we'll do a pre-launch party with the three of you and actually get Merlin on here. But then
your doppelganger.
Yeah.
You know what? Yes, I have to have a word with him. Yes, that you know what?
From another mother.
Oh my God, that'll be insane. Holy shit. Having us,
another mother.
And it'll be funny as hell if Zoom actually makes us put us side by side in the window spot. That would just be mean. That would just be.
Do you know what would be funnier? If you change your name to Marbod and Marbod changes his name to Chris O.
that would be hilarious. Be like, so Merlin, what's up? Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, that would be insane. That would be insane. No, but gentlemen, thank you again. We do appreciate you. Hopefully this funds. And again,
yes,
we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Bye.